While plenty of teams certainly have their guy set in stone, there are quite a few teams out there who may be looking to change that a little bit.
When you look at this, Lewis talking about how maybe Trubisky has the edge at this point, but Kenny Pickett might have a chance. It's really interesting in this competition how tight it could be.
For whatever reason, these 10 starting QBs are in danger of losing their jobs at some point during the 2022 NFL season. Or maybe even before then. Tua Tagovailoa. The Miami Dolphins didn't want to waste any more time in upgrading a mediocre supporting cast around Tua this offseason. After hiring the offensive-minded Mike McDaniels to take over as the new head coach, GM Chris Greer went all in to fix up the offense. The biggest splash was acquiring superstar wideout Tyreek Hill from the Kansas City Chiefs. Adding Cedric Wilson Jr. in free agency following a breakout year in Dallas was another crafty move on Greer's end. The O-line was fixed with the signing of Terron Armstead and Connor Williams. The new look backfield now has Raheem Mostert, Chase Edmonds, and Sony Michel. In other words, there are absolutely no more excuses for Tua. Miami has given him all the weapons he needs to succeed right away. But if he struggles with consistency like we saw in 2020 and 2021, well, don't think for a second that McDaniel will hesitate to give Teddy Bridgewater a look. The Dolphins signed the journeyman as an insurance policy. Bridgewater isn't by any means elite, but he's steady and avoids the costly mistakes that can derail a team. With that stingy defense and revamped rushing attack, Bridgewater would just have to play a game manager's role to win in South Beach. Tua was once viewed as a generational prospect and the solution to Miami's never-ending QB woes. But 2022 is essentially a make-or-break year for the former Alabama star. If he doesn't make it, Bridgewater will be more than happy to take over as Miami's starter. Trey Lance. There was a time where Lance was locked in as the San Francisco 49ers starter in 2022 and beyond. Jimmy Garoppolo was going to be traded, and Kyle Shanahan seemed fully committed to moving forward with Lance as his guy. But here we are post-draft, and Jimmy G is still on the roster. Perhaps it's going to stay that way come week 1.
Nothing's changed since his surgery. You know, we were where we were at before that, and then he got the surgery, so everything went on hold. I expect him at some time most likely to be traded, but who knows? It's not a guarantee, and it's been exactly on hold when that happened, and when he's healthy, we'll see what happens.
And let's not forget this interesting tidbit from NFL reporter Matt Lombardo. If you're Shanahan and GM John Lynch, why trade Garoppolo for the sake of it? If you're not going to get proper value for him, and if the 49ers brass doesn't fully trust Lance to lead the team come week 1, it doesn't hurt to have Garoppolo around. You know, just in case. Keeping Garoppolo around would go a long way in keeping Lance focused and motivated to play at his best. And if he doesn't come around in year 2, the 49ers shouldn't be shy to turn back to the guy who led them to a Super Bowl 54 appearance and, just recently, the 2021 NFC Championship game. Perhaps the Jimmy G era on the West Coast isn't done just yet. Carson Wentz. The Washington Commanders paid a rather hefty price to acquire Wentz from the Indianapolis Colts. What can we say other than Ron Rivera must love the potential of a guy that the Colts couldn't wait to get rid of after just one season together? Now, with all due respect to the Commanders' roster and coaching staff, the Colts are a much better team than the one in DC. If Wentz couldn't get it done with Frank Reich, why should we expect him to suddenly bounce back with a dysfunctional Washington franchise? To be perfectly honest, Wentz isn't that much of an upgrade over Taylor Heineke. Don't rule out rookie Sam Howell either. The number 144 pick of this year's draft has an enticing skill set, and if the Commanders are out of the playoff race late in the season, Rivera may not be scared to see what the kid can do. Wentz is a starter for now, but he has 2 backup QBs behind him on the depth chart who could very well take over the starting duties if he doesn't get back on track with his new team. Marcus Mariota. After trading away franchise icon Matt Ryan to the Colts, the Atlanta Falcons scooped up the 2015 second overall pick Marcus Mariota on a 2-year deal. A month later, the Falcons drafted Cincinnati signal caller Desmond Ridder in round 3 with the number 74 selection. Now, the Falcons won't admit it, but Mariota is essentially a bridge to the next Falcons QB, whether that's Ridder or somebody else. Mariota will need to have a career year in 2022 to lock down the starting job. Unfortunately, the Falcons haven't exactly placed him in a position to succeed. Sure, they retained Cordarrelle Patterson and drafted Drake London in the first round, 1 year after taking star tight end Kyle Pitts with the 4th overall pick. But the offensive line is still a mess. The rushing game is non-existent outside of Patterson's production, and the state of the Falcons' D basically means that Mariota will have to be lights out most weeks for Atlanta to have a chance. 2022 is a full-scale rebuilding year in Atlanta, and rebuilding years usually mean giving your young QB a look if you're eliminated from playoff contention early. So unless Mariota takes his game to a never-before-seen level in 2022, it'll only be a matter of time until head coach Arthur Smith gives Ritter a look. Drew Lock. Lock was part of the return the Seattle Seahawks received in the blockbuster Russell Wilson trade. And with no one else on the depth chart that's really worth of a shot, it looks like he'll enter training camp as Pete Carroll's guy, at least for now. Lock had some nice moments in Denver, but he couldn't consistently put it together. His decision-making, poor accuracy, and awful turnovers held back the Broncos' offense to the point where they turned to Bridgewater as their starter in 2021. There's not much reason to think that Carroll will unlock the potential of the 2019 second-round pick. Lock is who he is at this point, a merely average backup who can start a few games if called upon. In fact, you could argue that second stringer Geno Smith is a better quarterback than Lock. I mean, he actually looked like a decent fit in Seattle's offense last season, and it wouldn't be the least bit shocking if Smith finished out 2022 as the team's starter. Truthfully, Lock just isn't it. Unless Seattle sees something in him that we clearly don't. Mitch Trubisky. After spending a year with the Buffalo Bills as Josh Allen's backup, Trubisky jumped at the opportunity to start for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The number 2 pick of the 2017 draft signed a 2-year deal with the team after they lost Ben Roethlisberger to retirement. But then at the 2022 draft, the Steelers used the 20th selection on local kid and Pittsburgh product, Kenny Pickett. But make no mistake, this is Trubisky's job to lose for the time being. The Steelers know that they should be patient with Pickett, who could use 1 or 2 years of development before actually taking over. But what if Trubisky struggles to get it going early on in Pittsburgh? Mike Tomlin may have no choice but to throw Pickett into the fire. Quite frankly, there are zero excuses for Trubisky to struggle in Pittsburgh. He's joining an organization that hasn't had a losing season since 2003. They got to the playoff last year with Roethlisberger's noodle arm. With that TJ Watt-led defense running the show, Trubisky doesn't have to throw for 300 yards and multiple touchdowns every single game. He's simply going to be tasked with not screwing up. And if he can't handle that one simple task, maybe Pickett will be called upon sooner than the team had planned. Sam Darnold. After acquiring Darnold from the New York Jets in a 2021 offseason trade, the Carolina Panthers made the ill-fated decision to pick up his 5th-year option. If Darnold had broken out in 2021, this would have been a smart call on Carolina's end. But Darnold was awful with his new team, and the Panthers are stuck with his albatross contract for another year. As such, there's really no choice but to keep him on the roster and just hope for the very best. Darnold is a starter for now, but we would sure love to see Jimmy Garoppolo go there someday. Otherwise, rookie Matt Corral should be considered a strong candidate to start for Carolina at some point in 2022. Can Corral, the number 94 selection of this year's draft, really be that much worse than Darnold? I highly doubt it. And Matt Rule is coaching for his job, by the way. If Darnold doesn't cut it, and he probably won't, Rule shouldn't think twice about handing the keys over to Corral. Daniel Jones. The Giants are giving Jones one more chance to prove himself following 3 not-so-good seasons to start his career. Well, he's out of excuses now. The Giants hired the offensive-minded Brian Daboll, the man who turned Josh Allen into a megastar for the Bills, to replace Joe Judge as head coach. Then GM Joe Schoen used the number 7 pick in the draft on stud Alabama offensive tackle Evan Neal. He, alongside with the rising star Andrew Thomas, should give Jones some much better pass protection this season. But what if none of that helps? What if Danny Dimes continues to give up those back-breaking turnovers and hold the Giants' offense back? You see, that's why they brought in a safe backup option in Tyrod Taylor. No, he's certainly not the long-term answer, but the dual-threat QB is careful enough with the ball and can at least serve as a short-term option for a team that will likely be searching for a new franchise quarterback next offseason. One can argue that the G-men should even start Taylor over Jones beginning in Week 1, although we know that's not going to happen. Jones will have to show progress in the early stages of the season if he's going to keep his starting job. Jameis Winston. The New Orleans Saints went 5-2 under Winston last year. The turnover-prone QB displayed much better ball security, throwing 14 touchdowns against only 3 interceptions. If he had played the entire season, New Orleans would have made the playoffs, plain and simple. But here's the deal. They have to make the postseason in 2022. No excuses. GM Mickey Loomis rebuilt the offense around Winston by drafting the lightning-quick Chris Olave, then signing veteran Jarvis Landry. Loomis also drafted Trevor Penning to replace Terron Armstead, and we haven't even mentioned that Michael Thomas will be back in 2022. One concern for Winston is that quarterback guru Sean Payton is no longer in charge. Will the promoted Dennis Allen be able to get the most out of Winston, or will the 2015 first overall pick struggle without Payton? And how about his knee? Will he fully be recovered from his ACL tear? If Winston doesn't pan out, the Saints can turn to free agent pickup Andy Dalton. Sure, he's not the most attractive option, but if Winston can't maximize the insanely good talent around him, perhaps Allen will be inclined to give Dalton an opportunity. Ryan Tannehill. The Tennessee Titans selected Liberty QB Malik Willis with the number 86 selection. It was stunning to see him fall that low, given Willis's explosive dual-threat abilities and high ceiling. And it was also stunning to see him land with Tennessee of all places, as there are several much more quarterback-needy teams around the NFL than Mike Vrabel's squad. Then again, Ryan Tannehill did struggle to lead Tennessee's offense when Derrick Henry was sidelined, and then he imploded in their heartbreaking divisional round loss to the Cincinnati Bengals, throwing a costly pick that set up Evan McPherson's game-winning field goal. Tannehill is now entering his age 34 season. Chances are we've already seen the best of him, and he's likely on the decline. If Tannehill's downward spiral continues, Mike Vrabel should absolutely give Willis a chance. I mean, could you imagine Willis and Henry in that offense together? Willis would bring a new element to the team that Tannehill just can't deliver. And that could be a major problem for the other 31 NFL teams. But which other NFL quarterback are in danger of losing their starting jobs? Join us in the comments section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.